The new Jennette McCurdy book is finally out and I pre-ordered the signed edition to see if the hype was real. Since I haven't yet read her memoir, this was my first time reading her and let me tell you, it was uncomfortable. This is forbidden romance at its absolute peak, but not the kind that's going to make you feel like kick your feet and go all giggly and happy. It's bold, it's messy, and it's a masterclass in manipulation. Today in this video, I'm going to break down what I actually liked in this book, who is it not for, and at the end of the day, after reading this, how did this book make me feel? So let's get right into it. First up, the tea on the plot. So in this book, we follow Waldo, a teenager who falls hard for her creative writing teacher, Korgy. Now don't expect a literary genius. Like, Korgy is a man with a wife, a son, a growing paunch, and a person with dead dreams. He flat out admits that he's a failure, but to a teenager Waldo, like, this acceptance kind of feels, and this vulnerability kind of feels very incredibly deep. It's that specific brand of sad man energy that makes her want to drop everything in her life just to have a few minutes with this man. Waldo also has a mother who I can say very much her hobby is basically collecting men, and Waldo's own personality and story is a lot driven by this toxic relationship with her mother. How Waldo and Korgy navigate this age gap, forbidden, highly questionable romance, and whether it's like a cosmic connection or just a total farce, forms the basic premise of the story. First up, the spills. The first spill is, no way teenagers are that deep. Like, my biggest problem with this book is that Waldo sounds way too mature than like a 17-18-year-old. Like, I don't think there's any way teenagers are this mature. Like, almost reading this, it doesn't feel like it's Waldo's perspective, but it's almost like the author's voice is coming through it. Now, few may argue that it's because of all her backdrop and background, which I'll come to it later, but I would still argue like it sounds like a 40-year-old, not a teenager. Now, if you compare this to something like that of My Dark Vanessa, which is a book on similar themes, and FYI, like, this is one of my favorite books of all time, highly recommend. The difference over here is that the narrator has like years of hindsight and years of experience, and she's looking back into this trauma and then processing it for what it was. But here Waldo is kind of seeing the manipulation as it happens. True, she is misguided at many points, but like, she has this kind of maturity or insight about the whole situation that kind of makes it difficult to see her as a victim, especially when she's the one who is initiating a lot of these scenes. I feel it just feels too aware for a teenager to be caught in between that kind of mess. My second problem is hard pass on the messy visuals. Like, some of the scenes in this book was so uncomfortable to sit through. Like, I kind of question it now, like, was it just added for the shock value of it? If I compare this again to My Dark Vanessa, you would see that in that book, it made you feel a lot without being graphic at all. Like, in this book, there's this one scene which I would say it's kind of like a code red situation. It just gave me the icks. When you're dealing with something like that of a grooming case, like, I just feel like these kind of graphic details feel weird and unnecessary. I kind of can compare it to how I similarly felt disgusted while reading A Little Life, and I feel like these books sometimes kind of push boundaries just to make you squirm. And my last problem with the book is a flat finish. Like, for a book that made you feel so much while reading and going through this journey with Waldo, the ending of the book felt almost flat. Like, I was literally waiting for a punch to the gut at the ending where I would just sit down and stare at the wall for 20 minutes, but there was like nothing. It was just end. It didn't land with the same weight as the rest of the book, and for a book that pushes so many boundaries, like, this ending almost felt too quiet. And now we come to the good bits, the sips. And the first one is the mother of all the mess. Waldo's trajectory makes so much sense when you come to the source of the problem, which is her mother. Like, her mother is like, she has this disgusting family dynamic, like where her entire world revolves around men. Her only real effort is like wearing cute outfits for them, putting makeup for them, making an effort to make breakfast for them. And while all this time she's neglecting her child, she's neglecting Waldo, who is kind of forced to be the adult in this relationship. Can you imagine like being a 7-year-old and your mom is teaching you how to make a perfect drink for a man to keep him happy? This bit of the relationship felt so raw and real, and it was beautifully explored in this book, and kind of partially explains why Waldo herself feels so mature. Like, she thinks of herself as this deep and experienced person because she has been kind of managing her mother and her whims on men for all the years growing up. Like, it must have been so hard on her. I would still like to say that this still doesn't explain like how deep and how analytical and how perceptive her writing still comes out to be. That feels like a 40-year-old, but it kind of partially explains her behavior and why she falls for Mr. Korgy in the first place. The next point is the unlikable-ish teen. Now, Waldo is a classic example of a messy protagonist, the one you're not supposed to like. She makes questionable choices. Like, she has this like phases of being a shopaholic where she fills kind of a void in her by adding to cart and just shopping her minds out. But if you look deeper into it, you can understand that it's partially because of the lack of things she had while growing up, how people around her treated while she was growing up. And as she clicks on this checkout button, she tries to fill some kind of void inside her, which creeps back in again like once she has hit the button. Even though this character does a lot of questionable things, like I in particular didn't find her unlikable because there was a big rationale for her actions. To me, it was like a raw, honest look as to a personality who can be smart but yet be so broken. My next sip is the Guilt Trip Playbook. Now, this book is a masterclass in showing how manipulation actually works, how grooming can actually work, but the dynamic between this duo that makes it the most uncomfortable. Mr. Korgy, he doesn't use force, but he kind of uses his double life always like an excuse. Like, he expects Waldo to drop everything and everyone in her schedule just to spend some minutes with him, but he will cancel on her like in a heartbeat and just blame it on his family. And whenever Waldo starts to question it, he entirely flips the script and instead calls her being inconsiderate or not so understanding, and also pushes her to believe that if she would push this matter further, she has a risk of losing this relationship completely. He makes her feel that she has all the agency, but in reality, he's the one holding all the power. Like, it was so raw and so honest that it was sickening to read, but it just felt very true. And the last and final sip is the Gutsy Writing. Like, I feel the writing did it for this book. Jennette McCurdy, like, she uses this short, powerful sentences which are not overly complicated and which feel like very honest and very raw and very true. She went all out in this book, and it's very commendable how she doesn't shy away from ugly stuff. Instead of like directly telling you how a character feels, like, she builds it up through these like very sharp, specific examples. Like, for example, like, she'll just show you how a relationship might start losing its spark all of a sudden and what kind of onsets it, and when you think back on it, it just feels so true. Like, it almost feels she has experienced all these things in her life and she's putting it back into fiction. It's dry, it's witty, and it feels messy in the most realistic way possible. It's the kind of prose that just doesn't explain an emotion, but it will make you sit right in the middle of it. And here comes my final verdict. Now, who should not read this book? So if you want a satisfying ending or a clean-cut romance, like, put this book back on the shelf already, immediately. This is not a feel-good story, so don't go into it expecting one. If graphic scenes or like scenes or material related to grooming make you uncomfortable, then this will be a tough read for you. It's heavy, it's messy, and it offers zero easy closures. Also, if you have read My Dark Vanessa and you're expecting something as deep and as beautiful as this book, you'll probably be disappointed. And finally, who should read this book? This is for you if you're ready to sit through the ick of the book, as long as the writing feels very honest and raw. If you appreciate a deeply flawed protagonist and are ready to explore gray areas of manipulation without sugarcoating it, this book will be a fascinating read. Finally, this book is for anyone who are ready to sit through hard emotions and who are okay with characters facing very harsh realities of life. Like, this book will feel very raw and very true. And finally, my ultimate thoughts. I have given this book a solid 4 stars. The writing of this book is what finally makes it work so well for me. To me, this book is not perfect. Like, I have read My Dark Vanessa and it's something on the same subject matter, and that book is a masterpiece. It's nowhere close to that book, but it's a solid pick if you have been looking to find something which will make you feel something. There is a solid, brave voice behind this book that goes all out, and the situations feel too real to ignore. So let me know your thoughts in comments below if you have read this book and if it worked for you or not. Also, let me know any other books on this subject matter which you would recommend. Till then, have a great day, enjoy some great books. Bye bye, good night, Shubhratri.